Hi, my name's Ivo Favotto and I'm the current chairman of Marys Concord Parish Pastoral Council. Welcome to Parish Primetime. In this series, we talk to key members of the St Marys Parish in Concord who either are staff members or volunteers, help the parish fulfil its vision to make Christ present in our parish, in our local community and in our world. The aim of Parish Primetime is to help the St Marys Parish Concord community get to know the key people in our parish. So if you see them out and about in our community, let them know you've seen them on Parish Primetime and start a conversation. Our parish is filled with many wonderful people, so share a smile, say hello and get to know one another. This is episode 3, and this time we're talking to Lucille McKenna, who is the General Manager of St Mary's Villa, the aged care facility that occupies the same site as our church and our primary school. Hi Lucille, and welcome to Parish Primetime.
Hi Ivo, great to be with you.
Thank you. Hey Lucille, I understand you're back for your second stint as the St Mary's Villa General Manager, on top of a long tenure as Director of Nursing. Just how long have you been involved with the Villa and how did it all start for you?
Well, it all came about in 2008 when I was considering retiring and picked up the local paper and saw an advertisement for St Mary's Villa for a Director of Nursing. And of course, St Mary's Villa has always had a great reputation in this local area. And so I thought, that might be a good pre-retirement job for a while, so I might apply for that. I applied on, I had an interview on a Friday afternoon, and about 9:30 on the Monday morning, I got a call to say, you've been successful.
Oh, wow.
And funnily, I hadn't even contacted my referees at that stage because of the weekend. So anyway, so that's when I started. And as you said, I had quite a lot of years, about 8 and a half years as Director of Nursing. And then I moved to General Manager when Catherine left.
Part of the objective of Parish Primetime is to get to know the people in our parish a little bit more. I know you've been an active member of the community outside of St Mary's Villa. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your personal journey?
Yes, well, I've had a very long sort of activist past in lots of ways. In my early working life, and it was very much about women's issues because, I started work before we even got equal pay. So there've been some interesting stages of my life, and I've been, as I said, it was all about seeing women reach their full potential was a real goal for me in those earlier years. And then I came to, when I moved back to Sydney, I was out of Sydney for a number of years, and when I moved back to Sydney in the early 90s, I then became involved locally. All my children had grown up. My first grandchild had just been born. Wow. And we moved back to Sydney to be near to them because he was profoundly disabled. So my daughter needed help and she was young, and so we came back to Sydney to be near her. And then I became involved locally in my local community. So then I became so involved, I was convinced to run for council. So in those days, it was Ashfield Council. So I became a councillor on Ashfield Council. And then I became the first woman to be mayor at Ashfield ever.
Wow.
And that was in about, I don't know, the year about 2013, something like that, 12, 13. So I was mayor for 3 years, and then the council was amalgamated. So I was the last mayor as well, the first woman, the last. And of course, alongside of that, I've always had a strong interest in professional issues as well. So I've had a long involvement in being involved on workforce committees and things, and I had 17 years on the council of the New South Wales Nurses Association. So that was a voluntary position.
Good on you. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing some of that. It's really helpful. Thank you. Hey, let's just talk about the villa for a minute.
Yep.
how many residents and sort of what sort of people does the villa accommodate, and how do you go about getting into the villa?
Well, there's very many ways you can go about getting into the villa. So to start with, we have 99 residents. We have 6 allocated beds for respite residents, and we have a very big respite clientele, people that come in primarily to give their families a break or when the family's going on holidays, and that's a great service for this community. And we have lots of people that come and do that. Of course, it's been a little bit different since COVID because nobody's going on holiday, and so we've had some vacancies in our respite area. How do you get in? Well, primarily you need to go to My Aged Care, which is a national one phone number for the whole country, and you need to be registered. You need to be registered with My Aged Care to be able to come into an aged care facility. But anybody, I've always been really happy to provide information to people. I'll help them and take them through those steps. So local people often come in just to ask our staff, and primarily I will talk to them and walk them through the things that they need to do. So, and that's sort of an extra service that we've always provided here at St Mary's, and we're very happy for people just to gain information. We're happy to do it.
Yeah, look, that's an important sort of link to my next question, I guess, in terms of the villa being part of the St Mary's Parish here in Concord. What portion of residents are parishioners from the parish, and do parishioners get any preferential treatment or entry or anything like that?
Well, I think under the legislation we can't sort of advertise that we give preferential treatment, but I have a great belief that the successful aged care facilities are embedded in their community, and the parish is and St Mary's Parish is this. We're part of that community, so therefore it stands to reason that we certainly always ask. But again, we do have a long-standing relationship with the other parishes as well that are nearby. So, there are most people that live in Concord and surrounds know about St Mary's Villa.
Okay, thank you for that. I know there's normally a bond you have to pay. I think it's $550,000 to get a place in St Mary's Villa, but do you also accept people that can't afford that, and sort of how many people would that be?
We certainly do, and you know, there are set rules as to how many people we should have that aren't able to pay that fee, and they're called supported residents, and we don't refer to them that in any way. They're exactly the same as every other resident, and of course what people pay is a very private thing, and it's just something that is done between the management and the resident or their representatives. But the villa is available to everyone. There's nobody that could be excluded because of they can't pay. It's about the system is such that if you can pay, you do pay. If you can't pay, if you don't have any assets, if you live in rented accommodation and you don't have any assets, you still can come to the villa and you don't have to pay. It's a means tested system.
Whilst we're talking about the linkage between the villa and the parish, you know, there must be a relationship between the villa and the parish and the things that you do. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How the parish is involved in the day-to-day life of the villa?
Oh, look, there's many ways. Of course, volunteers. We do have volunteers, and predominantly we've always got our volunteers through the parish. We've usually, if we're needing volunteers, we would advertise in the parish news. The other great, of course, is the school. We've had a lot of programs that have where we've had interaction between St Mary's School and the villa, and of course that's all on that's all on hold at the moment as well. But
No.
we would hope that will resume to in the not too distant future.
So you mentioned,
So,
Lucille, that there's volunteers from the parish. What do the volunteers actually get up to? What do they have? What do they do?
Well, at the moment, we've just resumed with one volunteer who takes people to Mass.
Right.
So that's just restarted in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
Residents have been not going to Mass, and and this is the people that are able to go and be okay on their own or just with a volunteer. And so that's just resumed. Most of them are going on Saturday evening, right, when the church is not so busy. So that's a really important role. Other things like assisting with activities. Some of them will come and feed residents at certain times, certain meals. Just talk to the residents. There's all sorts of jobs and things, paint fingernails.
Yeah.
Do manicures. There's a variety of tasks that they can do, and it's about what people's skills are as well, and what they feel comfortable doing. So yeah, it's a very it's a lovely thing to do for people that have the time, and it builds relationships. It builds strong relationships with the residents and the staff,
Awesome.
and the volunteers.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Listen, I keep hearing about the wonderful staff at St Mary's Villa. You can't talk to somebody who's had a family member in St Mary's Villa without hearing about the staff. Tell me a little bit about your team.
Well, they're a pretty amazing team. Of course, one of the things about the St Mary's Villa staff, which is pretty unique and is contrary to what you hear about aged care, certainly in the media, is that we have very long-term staff. Our staff often never leave. We just had one registered nurse retire, and she started at the old villa when it commenced in 1985, and she just retired recently.
Wow.
So that's extremely. We've got another person that's still here who works in the kitchen who came at that time as well. But there's a longevity issue with our staff, but we also have a lot of young people, very diverse from very, very many cultures, many parts of the world. The registered nurses, of course, are the team leaders of all the groups, so they're a great team. There's 14 registered nurses that work at St Mary's Villa at the moment, and they are, most of them work part-time, but some full-time, and they are a very important group. I mean, we couldn't manage without them. We do have a higher number of registered nurses than most facilities, but I think that brings a level of care and oversight to the residents' care needs that is probably better than some that, and we do get a lot of bad publicity in the media about aged care, and not in St Mary's, thank goodness. But I think the RNs do bring a very special role to the place.
Yeah, amazing. Hey, I just want to finish on the topic of 2020, which is COVID-19. I'm sure it's impacted the villa in many ways, and I know you recently managed your way through a scare. Can you just tell us a little bit about COVID, its impact on the villa, and how you're managing all of that?
Well, it's infection control has been something that's always been part of our life as registered nurses, but this has been at a whole new level. We've never seen anything like this before. We have never seen a virus that is so contagious. We've all heard the really, really awful stories. we had a long period of lockdown in March and April, when it was sort of the beginning of the pandemic, when we were hearing such awful things in aged care and other places. We've had a couple of scares since then, where we've had residents who were close contact of a person with it, and this happened at Concord Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we had to go into lockdown. We have various levels of lockdown, so that particular lockdown was locking us all in. Well, not the staff still have to go home, of course, but it just means that nobody's allowed in, that everybody has to be really careful, super careful. And of course, your residents who've been exposed have to be isolated. It's a pretty challenging thing for the residents as well. So you have to really work really hard to make sure that they're feeling supported and their families are feeling supported. We had to introduce lots of video messaging, and we had to run out and buy some iPads, and you couldn't buy them at the time. It was to be able to let the residents talk to families. And that was a new experience, because a lot of our residents had never done a video chat before.
I bet. Yeah.
We've all had to learn to do Zoom. We communicate with the Sydney Local Health District on Zoom. We've had to get all of these various things, different uses, onto our computers and etc. So I think the big thing has been the level of education we've had to provide, putting staff, registered nurses, into a role where they are responsible for making sure that everybody's really spot on with how they actually look after people. We've not had anybody with COVID-19, so therefore our people who've been isolated have just been isolated because of their contact, and it wasn't developed into anything. So we've been very lucky in that sense. But the training has been amazing. We're still doing it. We're just doing it all the time, and we will be doing it while ever this pandemic is still around and while the virus is still around.
It sounds like the residents are in good hands there, Lucille. And just listening to you talk over this short interview, I have a better understanding of the villa, and I'm sure now that you are a key part of its reputation and the reason why you've managed to keep the staff there for so long. Thank you for making the time to join me on St Mary's Concord Parish Primetime. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And just if anyone at any time wants to know anything, happy for them to come in or call me up or come into the counter and make an appointment. Awesome.
Thank you, Lucille. Well, folks, that's the end of episode 3. I hope you liked it. Stay tuned for episode 4 in the coming weeks. And in the meantime, if you've got a story to share on your experiences at St Mary's Parish Concord, please reach out to us via the parish Facebook page or via the parish website. Bye for now.